All right, it is a Gold Jacket Thursday, and Seattle traded up in 1997 so they could select this man with the 6th overall pick, and he quickly became the blindside protector and one of the best to ever do it on the O-line. Played his entire career in Seattle, 9 times a Pro Bowler, a team record 10 playoff starts, including the 2005 NFC Championship game and then the Super Bowl. In all, he played in 180 regular season games during his career, a first-team selection in the NFL's all-decade team of the 2000s, and I imagine it never gets old to hear Pro Football Hall of Famer, class of 2014. He is tackle Walter Jones. Big Walt, welcome back to Ohio.
All right, thanks a lot, man. Thanks for having me.
You grew up in Aliceville, Alabama. That's about 45 minutes from Tuscaloosa, but you find your way to Tallahassee. Tell me about the journey to Florida State playing for Bobby Bowden.
It was amazing, man. I think for me personally, when I first got introduced to Florida State, I went to a high school football camp they were throwing during the summertime. And I went down there for that summer, and I got a chance to see players. I think when I went down there, they had, like, Charlie Wars. And that was my first time ever seeing, like, how big football was, you know what I'm saying, where you're seeing players at the college level where they need security to go anywhere. And I said to myself, I went into they showed a highlight video, and I said to myself, this is where I want to play at.
Do you have a favorite Bobby Bowden story?
When I got on the team, I was playing the team my first year there. And, a lot of, coming from a little small rural town, anywhere you go, you get homesick. And I had told anybody, your mom always told you, that you're going to have those days where you're missing home, but you know why you was there. So one day I was walking into practice, feeling down, like thinking like, man, do I really want to be here? I think I want to go back home. And, I didn't say nothing to nobody, but then Bobby Bowden came up behind me. He was like, hey, well, how you doing? And I was like, I'm doing good, Coach, blah, blah. I didn't go into details, but then he was just like, he started talking to me, asking me about my mom, started asking me about all my brothers. And I'm coming from a family of 8 of us. So he reeled off all my sisters and brothers' name, asked them how they was doing, blah, blah, blah. And that literally changed my whole perspective, my whole outlook of being in Tallahassee, where he took the time out to come up to me and talk to me and ask me. And, I didn't say anything to anybody. So for him as a coach, that's a great job for a coach to know when to come to and talk to a guy. He came up to me and asked me all that. And that changed my whole trajectory of how I saw things and that was another time where I said to myself, I did pick the right school.
Yeah, that's awesome. Walter, let's stay down there in Florida State and ask you about the current Seminole football team, off to a 2-0 start, a lot of eyeballs on that Alabama game right out of the gate, and they handle business, and now here they are as a top 10 team in the country. Just talk about your current thoughts on the program and where that is headed.
I think what Coach Novell is doing is amazing. I think he had to clean up some stuff there, especially with a lot of the older coaches. I felt like, sometimes you have to clean out house to kind of get everybody back on this one page. And I think that's what he have done through all this process. And now where we at, it's still a long season, but still, again, I'm very excited on what this team can do and what this team can be about. And a lot of times you can see if you have a good quarterback, a player that is fearless, you're gonna probably have a pretty good team. And I think that the guy that they got down there now, I can't say his name, but Tommy
Castellanos.
Castellano. So for him, I think he brings that swag that I think that the FSU fan base need.
We are visiting with Pro Football Hall of Famer, the tackle out of Seattle, the Seahawks, Walter Jones, with us, and it's kind of ironic because I think my boy Sean Springs, the Buckeye, wasn't he in your draft?
Oh, yes, he was. He was number 3, and I was number 6.
Yeah, and so they go up to get you. And listen, Seattle wasn't great, I think, when they were pretty awful for most of the 90s. You get there, and then did Paul Allen buy the team right after you got drafted? Was that right around that time that you got a new owner?
Yeah, that was right. That was right around that time. I always tell people all the time, though, when you get drafted that high, most of the time the team is a hot mess express. So, you know what I'm saying? So you just have to go in there and hopefully that you can be the guy that can change things around. And I'm very blessed that I got that opportunity to go in there. And like I always tell people all the time, enjoy the bad days, because when you have those victories, they're going to mean much, much, much more to you. So that's the way I approach it. I tell people to enjoy the bad times, because once it change over, when you're hugging and stuff, when everybody wins it all, those are the things that you remember how bad this team was before you get to that winning stage.
There was a couple running backs that you paved the way for, in Ricky Watters and Sean Alexander. And we had the pleasure of talking to Sean a couple years ago at Radio Row in Las Vegas for the Super Bowl. A really cool guy. I enjoyed that. But just talk about those two running backs and your time blocking for those guys and just being in the huddle with them week in and week out.
It was amazing. I think for those guys, those types of guys, all you got to do is just do your job, And I think Ricky Water, showed that before I even started playing with Ricky Water, that he was one of those players that made plays with flashy. And then you get a guy like Sean Alexander, that a guy that was the guy since high school. The things he was able to do in high school, and then go to Alabama and do the things, and then you get a chance to block for him. And so for me as an offensive lineman, that's what you want, a guy that looking for the end zone. I thought that Sean was great at that, and it makes your job easier. If you got in front of guys, Sean would make guys miss and hit the hole and try to make that safety miss. And if Sean knew where his block was and where the unblocked guy was, he was great at that. So he made my job pretty easy. So I had a great time blocking for both of those guys.
Walter Jones, one of the best to ever do it. I loved your enshrinement speech. It wasn't that long ago. You got in fairly soon after your playing days were over. But the one that I laughed at was when you talk about those trying times and the adversity, and you kind of did like a half little apology to Matt Hasselbeck, the quarterback. Tell us about what happened there in training camp.
You know how it is, man. Like, you be in training camp, you go to training camp the last day of training camp, the last night of training camp. Most of the time when you go to training camp, the quarterback is the one that got the coolest room. He got TVs, he got music, he got video games. And then this dorm was more like a circular dorm, so the most space was probably right at the elevator area. And Matt Hasselbeck's room was literally right across from the elevator. So we decided that last night to hang out because we really knew all we had to do tomorrow is just show up, and then everybody get in their car and drive back to Seattle from training camp. But that was a great spot. And then, that was the last night, so we decided to grab some adult beverages and have a good time. He was playing video games, playing music, so we decided to sit right there and kind of listen to his music and have a couple drinks. And then all of a sudden, when it was time to go to bed for him, he didn't tell us he was going to bed. He just closed the door. And Robbie Toback was there. If anybody know Robbie Toback, he's a very comical guy, always no matter how serious it get, no matter, you can be in the toughest situation in a game, and Robbie Toback will do something to make you laugh. It just kind of make you relax sometimes. Sometimes we get so caught up and so like we want to get this done, and then all of a sudden he'll do something to break the ice. So we were just sitting there, and I said to myself, man, if I had a key, I would go in there and slap him, man. He could have let us know he was going to bed. And so Toback went down to the lobby and got the master key and went and unlocked the door. And I walked in and said, Matt, man, I got to slack you, man. And then I smacked him pretty good. It's supposed to have been a soft smack, but people don't realize your hands get pretty heavy when you had a couple of adult beverages. So, and then, after the next morning, we walked into the training room, and literally my whole handprint was across his face. And I felt bad at that moment, but, it's just part of, when your boys say, hey, man, you got to do this, as an offensive line, we all as one. So, and that's how that story got started, man. Right. It was just him and a quarterback, and we had to put him in his place.
Hey, you were stronger for it, apparently, because you guys were really tight, man. What sticks with you from that Super Bowl against Pittsburgh, if anything?
No, what stuck with us, honestly, though, I thought like that year we was together. I think doing that season, that Super Bowl run, what happened was we was playing in a game, right? And the coaches got on us about a play that they had called, and he got on us talking about we didn't do it right, blah, blah, blah. And we decided as a lineman to say, you know what? They're not on the field with us. As long as we're on the same page, what can they do? So we made it upon ourselves to start having our own needs, to look at defenses, and literally – I want to say by game 4, game 5 of that season, the game came so much easier because it was the quarterbacks, the running backs, and the lineman was all in meets at the same time, looking over blitzes. So we wanted to know when he called his blitz, what he was doing. This is what we was doing. And honestly, through that whole season, it was fun. And then for me personally, that just put it in perspective because it made me realize like all these great teams that was always in the hunt. And I realized that you do that during the regular season. So now when you can enjoy the playoff, where you're not in a wild card, you're just in 2 games to get to the Super Bowl. So I said to myself, this is easy, bro. So, for us, we took it upon ourselves. So that's the number one thing that I took away from that Super Bowl run was that we took it upon ourselves to be a great team. And then the Pittsburgh game, I tell people all the time, I said, even though we felt like we was the best team, we just wasn't the best team on that day. And, the saying they always say, if any given Sunday, and that was a Sunday that we didn't play our best football. And that's the only thing I can say about that because, you got to take your hat off to Pittsburgh and what they was able to do. But still, again, I felt like we didn't play our best game on that Sunday.
I get it. Listen, you got so much to be proud of. You also got to play in the most famous game in the world, and you were the first offensive lineman in Seahawks history to be elected to the Pro Bowl, and now you're in football heaven in Canton. It's got to be cool to be back there. I thought they did. I'm sure you thought they did a great job on your bust. You get to visit that, shine that thing up this week. But what are you looking forward to, and how does it feel to be back in Canton?
I think for me, it's pretty amazing that you're able to come back here, and now you're getting a chance to meet some of the people that make Canton their home, where, most of the time we come here, we at the Hall of Fame, we don't go too much out, but now you're walking in high school, you go into community centers where these people are feeling like they are a part of Canton and part of the Hall of Fame.
It's amazing. And to your credit, you always wanted to be accountable, and this is part of being accountable as a Pro Football Hall of Famer, to keep paying forward and give back and let these kids talk to you and help drive them to their dreams as well. 9 Pro Bowls, 12 seasons, 6 All-Pros. He's Big Walter Jones, back in Canton, and we hope you have a great time, Walter. Thanks for the visit.
All right, thanks a lot, guys.